Hello, hello. Ticonderoga. All right, almost done. Anyway, so here we are. Welcome, welcome. We'll witness a lot of nice conversations today. Me too. In fact, I hope that we get some pre-suppers because I have a new argument that I want to run on pre-suppers. Pre-suppers. We should be live on TikTok in just a minute, but for now we are only live on YouTube and we are only live through the link in the background because TikTok's taking a while to start up. That said, we should be, hopefully TikTok will finish soon. Ah, there it is, should be done. Oh, it's so warm. It's the light and the lack of airflow. It's what does it. The light and the lack of airflow. Come on, TikTok Studio, do your thing. Sorry for the long startup time, y'all. It's just for some reason, the TikTok app is annoying. It's not even starting. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Now it says preparing, so we might be okay. Preparing your studio. Well, anyway, while you guys are here, there we go. We should be good to fire away. All right, and fire. Hopefully my audio is coming in nice and clear for everybody. I don't know why TikTok's so slow today. Well, I do know why. It's because my computer is so slow today. All right, we should be live on TikTok. There's a God by Allah and Muhammad. Why are we not live on TikTok? Because TikTok had to run an update, but we are live on TikTok now. Now we're live on TikTok, so we should be good to go. We should start getting some guests in here ASAP. And hopefully my audio is coming through A-okay. Should be good to go. My stream thing is all set up. So welcome, welcome everybody. If you're watching on YouTube in the future, make sure to hit the subscribe button, like the live stream, ring the bell so you know when I'm live next. Leave a comment if you think somebody has something clever to say. Or if you think somebody doesn't have something clever to say, leave a comment either way. Helps get the engagement up. And you know, our prime competition is Justin and Ian, and currently we're in third place, so we gotta do better. Oh, yeah. Regular focal cleansing. Let's do it. Let's do the regular focal cleaning. Howdy, howdy. All right, let's clean them glasses. I mean, it's like a friendly competition, but it only feels friendly when you're not in last place. Yeah, I'm not gonna be mad at them for their success. Seems your prime competition is God. No. God doesn't exist. How could I? Antipete. Oh, Antichrist. That's what you're calling me. You're calling me the Antichriste. Or Antichriste. Mikolos, you want to come up? Because you can come up. If you want to come up, you can join the guest box. The link's in the background. Just saying. Just saying, Mikolos. Would you say you and Ian's philosophies are the same? More or less. We might have some actual disagreement. You can't see the guest box. Might have some, like, nitpicking disagreements, but guest box seems, yeah, the guest box seems live, so if you can't see it, it might just be on your end. I can just invite you if you want to come up. See, I can just invite you. How many years old are you? I'm 31. Constantine.
Yeah, how are you? That's my actual name too. Isn't that crazy?
It's a good name, to be honest. Like, it's a really good name.
Solid.
Yeah,
pretty solid. Pretty solid. I've seen worse.
yeah, like I don't know, like Bob. Bob is like a worse name than Constantine, right?
A Jones. I just like to be a Jones.
Yeah. Anyway, Constantine, do you believe in God?
Yeah, I'm a theist.
Okay. Theist. Which kind? Like, are you particular, like,
yeah,
are you
Christian theist?
Okay, cool.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you think would be your most compelling argument for an atheist?
Tag.
You want to run tag? If you want to run tag, you can do it. It's not compelling, and I have a recent argument that's actually quite compelling against it, in my opinion.
What, as far as tag is concerned? I'm not good at tag, man. All my arguments.
Good. Tag is terrible.
Yeah, all my arguments are the classical ones, right?
Okay. And so what do you think is most compelling?
I always like, me personally, for discussion reasons, I always like Kalam cosmological.
So, specifically,
you probably had it 1,000 times, but hey, you invited me, so here I am.
Yeah. So, like, do you take? So, why don't you run it just for the people who don't know?
Yeah.
And then we can talk about it. How about that?
Yeah. Okay. And real quick before I get into this, just a brief question. I've found that most of these TikToks, you guys already know these arguments, but I'm also curious about this. This is just conversation. Is this tag argument ran so much that they don't know classical arguments, or is the tag one ran just in redundance to where the classical ones just kind of went by the wayside?
The tag argument, the people who run tag, okay. So most people who run tag don't really know how to run the other arguments.
Is that what's going on?
Yeah.
Yeah,
and
because
they see tag as like an easy win. Because they're like, haha, you can't defeat me because I can just assume the thing you believe in. Yeah. So it's just not so there's this guy PMars.
Yeah, I know him, yeah.
So PMars apparently actually doesn't know how to debate. Or rather, he used to debate like evolution and like cosmological arguments, but I guess he got destroyed so hard so many times that he switched over to tag, and that's all he does.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't really know how to run tag, and here's the reason why. In academia, so for example, theological seminary, that's not an argument that's taught to us.
It's not a real argument. No philosophers, no academics take it seriously, right?
Yeah. So I the first time I ever heard it was coming on the TikTok, and I thought,
it's
never. So it's a little bit difficult for me to follow. So I don't run that one.
It's a nothing argument. Like it convinces nobody who doesn't already believe. Whereas like the cosmological argument actually does convince other people.
Yeah, and I think it's a better conversation piece.
Yeah, I think so too. Right. So Kalam cosmological argument. You want to go ahead?
Yeah. So here's the premises for the Kalam cosmological. So everything that begins to exist has a cause. The universe began to exist. Therefore, the universe has a cause. And here's an additional preamble that is usually added to it. And there's a therefore comma. whatever the author of this cause is must be causeless, spaceless, timeless, and immaterial, and it adds weight to the argument of causality, and so that's the premises of the argument.
Yeah, sure. So I actually take issue kind of with both premises, both the first two premises.
Yeah.
So my issue with the first premise being whatever begins to exist has a cause, is that it seems like it's perfectly tailored so that it's not so narrow that you disprove God. Sorry? No. It's not so narrow that it disproves God, and it's not so broad that it disproves God. It just falls right in the middle, where you can actually use it to do the opposite. Because, like, for example, or the evidence for the claim, everything that begins to exist has a cause. That evidence is basically just everyday experience, right?
Yeah, and then what happens is you get into the infinite regress of causality, which is not a tag argument. That's an infinite regressive cause.
No. What I'm saying is like you can say, like, yeah, everything that begins to exist has a cause, but like equally well supported by the same data would be the sentence like everything that begins to exist has a physical cause. That would be equally well supported by the data, but now you wouldn't be able to use that to support a divine being, right? On the other hand, you could also say that everything has a cause, because that also agrees with all of the data that we've ever seen. But you don't want to say that either, because then you also can't use that to talk about a divine being. So I take issue with the first premise, because it seems like on the same data that you use to defend the first premise, I could just as easily say that everything has a cause, or I could just as easily say that everything has a cause that's physical. So it just doesn't seem like that first premise really, like, you shouldn't be able to disprove the existence of God using the same evidence that you're using to prove the existence of God. And so that makes me very, very suspicious of the first premise.
Yeah, that's interesting. I've never really heard that. And let me ask you this. That's pretty cool. When you say physical, so you can say that everything that began had a cause that's physical. Therefore, since God isn't physical, that would kind of refute its own argument. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. So you would say that everything that began to exist has a physical cause. God is not a physical thing, therefore, it's not that it refutes itself. It's just that it can't lead you to a God, because God is clearly not physical. So you would end up with some physical thing that caused everything, or a physical chain of infinite regress, one or the other. But like, in either case, you don't end up with a God, because presumably you don't want to say that God's some physical thing, right?
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. I've never heard that. So then I would say, again, blown away by that. I never heard that argument before. It's pretty good. Let me explore that a little bit. So if it is a physical cause, then therefore it negates having a spiritual creator, so to speak.
Yeah.
But then, now here's the thing, since I'm not familiar with that argument and can't process it on the spot, I'm going to subvert a little bit, if that's okay.
Sure.
Just for progress of conversation, so I'm not just going, I don't get it. So I'm going to usurp a little bit and say that this causeless, infinite mover, and this is slightly straw manning, man. I think I'm mischaracterizing you, but it would make sense to me that it is without space, time, and material, and that the space or the material has to come into existence with some sort of a co-authorship. And so could it be that this spiritual description of this axiom that we're calling God would therefore be the author of all things physical, from his own realm, being all powerful? And if we lend the weight of the argument in an internal critique that it's omnipowerful and so forth, does that or am I did I follow in? Does that logically follow?
Well, but so the thing is we can't. I mean, like, you could suppose that, but then the question is why? Like, I still need an argument as to why this spiritual cause exists in the first place, right?
Yeah. And now, does it? Okay. Would I be correct in rebutting by saying that this spiritual cause is therefore causeless and does not require a physical cause?
Oh, okay, yeah. So you're misunderstanding a little bit, and that's fine. So the point is the point of the Kalam argument is that we say things like, the universe had a beginning,
Mm-hmm,
therefore it
mm-hmm.
must have a cause, right? That's the whole business with the Kalam. But
Yeah,
I would
premise.
say, if we take my version of the first premise, we would say, well, the universe had a beginning, therefore it has a physical cause. So there's
Uh-huh.
just some physical thing that caused it, which
Yeah.
means that God just doesn't play a role, and so we don't have any. There's not really any like metaphysical need for a God that to fill the role of causing the universe. If we posit that physical things or that things have physical causes.
Right. Right. Yeah. Um, Man, that's deep. I'm gonna have to go back and think about some stuff. But let me ask you this then. If we have to posit that there's this physical cause, what do we do with causality and its infinite regress then?
Well, I think that you probably think that infinite regress is a problem. I don't really see the problem, but there are ways to have kind of like causeless physical beginnings. Um,
Hmm.
that are complicated, but essentially one way to describe this is you have some sort of like um, timeless universe, and
I'm sorry, just to make sure that so I don't want to. My mind is jumping to a place, and I want to make sure it's not jumping incorrectly. Like what is it? The expansion or cyclic theory of
no.
no? Okay.
So that would be a type of eternal universe, which I imagine that you would think would have a infinite regress problem. But what I'm positing is rather a timeless universe. So there's just no time, and
Mm-hmm.
time begins at a particular place in that timeless
Mm.
universe. So there
Yeah.
is a
Yeah.
beginning of time. It's just a place in the timeless universe. And in that case, it doesn't really need a cause because a timeless thing, in some sense, doesn't need a cause. Like it doesn't have a beginning properly. But that's
Yeah.
not because it hasn't. That's not because it's always existed. There just wasn't any time.
Yeah. That's fascinating. So let me ask you this, and let's just say, like in the abstract world of mathematics, right, where
Hmm.
infinite regress is, it's not only possible, but it's a fundamental part of many theories, right? So if I
Yeah,
grant
sure.
you that, does that mean that it corresponds to anything in the physical world?
I don't see an issue with having like actual infinities. I mean, like it seems super plausible to me that the universe is actually infinite. And so I just
Can we
don't like
attach
in
that to a
size.
model?
Yeah, sure. I mean, so standard cosmology assumes that the universe is infinitely large.
Sure, sure.
Um, and so like you have like time or you have like space-time interdependency. So it just seems
Hmm.
super plausible
Yeah,
that
yeah,
if
yeah, yeah.
space is infinitely large, so would time. Time would
Does that
also
make
be.
them correlative, you think?
I don't know. Like, I mean, it's more of an intuition thing. Like, it could be the case that there's a beginning, while it could be the case that our universe has both a beginning and an end, but also be infinitely large. That would just seem kind of like unnatural to me. Not that that's an argument, but it just wouldn't seem like it wouldn't sit right.
Does entropy give you a problem when considering that as a factor?
Not if the universe has a finite past, certainly. And there are even ways to get around the entropic argument, even if you want to demand an infinite universe.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
like infinitely old universe, I should say.
Yeah, yeah. So let me ask you this then, and the reason that I'm asking about some models,
Yeah, sure.
when we use some of these models, like for Big Bang or Great Expansion, right?
Hmm.
Now, I'm gonna appeal to a majority, if you allow it,
Sure.
that there's it suggests, and I think that's safe language, that should suggest that the time and space had a beginning. And now I'm going to say this other statement. I'm going to say it carefully, and I'll let you do with it what you will. Here's a however, comma. Speculative models, such as let's say cyclic, like I mentioned, other words, or multiverse, allow for the possibility of infinite regress in time or causation. But I'm going to put speculative on that while appealing to a majority, or not. I don't know if it would even be a majority, but appealing to a popular consensus. How about?
So I would say that you would have been right if we were having this conversation 40 years ago. But by the
Yeah,
time the
right.
mid 80s rolled around, the consensus kind of shifted to this idea of eternal inflation, which really
The,
is an infinite regress.
the
Um,
dense infinite density. Is that what it's called?
no, it's eternal inflation. So the idea is you basically have big bangs happening like spontaneously forever into the past and forever into the future in like spatially disconnected parts of the universe or causally disconnected parts of the universe. So eternal inflation it's not consensus, but it is very
Hmm.
mainstream. And like if you ask a cosmologist like what like they think kind of the textbook explanation is for the origins of the universe, they'd probably say eternal inflation. Now, that's not held by everybody. And some people think that it's been disproven. Yeah, so, but this is all to say, like, once inflation hit the scientific community in the mid 80s, and then eternal inflation came out a few years later, nobody's really been serious. Not nobody, but the kind of the mainstream view has very much shifted away from the Big Bang as absolutely the beginning of the entire universe, and it's shifted more to the Big Bang was something that we don't understand, and it may or may not have been the beginning.
Yeah. So let me ask you, would you think that it is possible is it possible? Like if I say current empirical evidence doesn't support an infinite regress in a physical universe, again, that's appealing to maybe something that's older without this great expansion of a hot, dense space. But I don't see, in my understanding, mind you, I don't see how that gets us away from a cause.
Well, so the current data that we have, so let me give some background. When people come up with models, the first thing they do is basically check it against the data. So all of the models that you'll see coming out, almost all of them, not everybody does this, but almost all of the models that you'll see coming out, whether they're cyclic or they're infinite in some other way or they're finite, they will all agree with the data that we have. Every single one of them. Because
So
they
that's
didn't.
a standard.
That's like basically a given for any model that you see.
Right.
Because I mean, like when you submit a paper, they're going to be like, okay, well, this obviously doesn't align with our universe because we have XYZ piece of data that this model disagrees with, right? So it just wouldn't get accepted into a journal if that were the case. So
Sure.
So I wouldn't go as far as to say that none of the data supports cyclic models and that it does support a finite past. But I mean, like even then, there are causeless. I think that like it makes sense to talk about, in some sense, causeless universes that have a finite past. The example I gave is the one where you have like this kind of timeless universe that has a place where time starts. That doesn't have a cause, right? And it also has a finite past. Yeah, in that model. And by the way, to be clear, that model is not fringe. That model was put forward by Stephen Hawking.
Yeah, and let me ask something. When he's made some comments that have been, he's made some comments about painting himself into a kind of a corner. Gosh, I wish I had the quote, but it seems like no. I think that was Jastrow. Never mind, the wrong guy. So let's progress the conversation forward. So if I take this SURGE acronym that's real common, I'm sure you've heard it.
No, I haven't. What is it?
Oh, SURGE. Yeah, SURGE.
What does it stand for?
SURGE, second law of thermodynamics. This is just entropy.
Wait, wouldn't that be...
S.
Wait, how is that surge? SL...
Yeah, SURGE is the second law. It's an acronym.
Wait, what does the U stand for?
Universe is expanding.
Oh, I see. Okay. S is the second law of thermodynamics. Okay,
Yeah.
I thought surge stood for the second law of thermodynamics. Okay,
No,
bad.
yeah. So there's an acronym, very common in Christian apologetics when talking about this, to lend weight to the argument and appeal to a finite beginning. And so here it goes. If you would humor me.
Yeah, sure. Well, do you want to do one at a time, or or you can list them all and then we can talk about them afterwards? It's up to you.
Yeah, depending on how much time you got. I don't know if I'm taking up your live. I know you got a lot of viewers and a lot of people waiting, but sure. Second law of thermodynamics. We'll go one at a time. I'll give you the acronym and then let you respond, and then we'll just move forward. Is that cool?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So the universe is, by the way, reading from a screen.
That's fine. That's fine.
Second law of thermodynamics states that entropy, disorder, in a closed system always increased over time. The universe is moving toward a state of maximum entropy, which is consistent with the Big Bang model. If the universe had a beginning, a low entropy state, the observed increase in entropy over time aligns with the idea of an expanding universe that started from a highly ordered dense state.
Yeah, so the second law of thermodynamics, I mean, it's a great description of the second law of thermodynamics. There are a few. So one thing that I always caveat any discussion about the second law of thermodynamics in the context of the universe is it has to apply to a closed system, and it's not quite clear that the universe counts as one of those. That's a caveat. Maybe it does. Maybe there's a way to talk about it. But typically, closed systems mean that energy is conserved in a closed system. But as far as we can tell, energy is not conserved at a cosmic scale in our universe. The universe is expanding, and with it, the universe is gaining energy. So not quite clear that it's a closed system, but if we just grant that it still applies, then we can talk about kind of possible outs, right? So there are a few possible outs that might get you away or let you escape the second law of thermodynamics, if you will.
I love escape hatches.
Right. So the first is that it could be that that entropy will always increase in our universe, absolutely, and that prior to our universe, there was another universe running in reverse. It was collapsing down to a point, and then it reached a minimal energy state at our Big Bang, and then now it's re-expanding, and it'll do that forever. And so, in that sense, you kind of have two universes going off in opposite directions.
Yeah,
and
we're
so
not
in that case,
to one side, right?
Sorry, one more time.
Yeah, it's not like we're limited to just one direction, you know.
Yeah, so in that case, you'd kind of have time going in both directions, away from the singularity, or away from the Big Bang, but then there wouldn't actually be a beginning, right? Because you'd have a time coordinate that runs all the way through forever in both directions. So that's one out. That was put forth by Carol and Chen. I think that was put forth by Carol and Chen. There are a whole bunch of other models. Another one is that you have an expansion, and once you reach a certain entropy state, for dark energy reasons, basically, the universe fractures and dumps all of that entropy into a bunch of tiny universes that then undergo their own Big Bangs, and so you have like an infinite chain of that. And so you always have.
I'm very familiar with dark energy, by the way. I'm married.
Come on, she.
See, yes, of course, yeah.
Okay, I mean, like,
we're good.
Like,
just a little
she's your significant other. You're supposed to love her.
Sure,
right?
yeah, we love each other.
Good. Okay. Yeah. So there's this idea that that our universe might just be one of these fractured universes from a prior state, and on and on and on. So you can have an infinite regress that way. So there are a whole bunch of models that basically take care of the entropy problem one way or another. There are also suggestions that actually, if the universe started to contract, entropy would run in reverse. This is actually something I'm working on explicitly, but I can't talk about it too much because it's not done. But this idea that that the only reason entropy is increasing in our universe is because the universe is expanding, and if the universe were to be contracting, then the entropy might be decreasing. That was an idea again put forward by Hawking. So there are a whole bunch of ways that we could potentially escape the entropy problem. But I should stipulate again, just because it has a beginning doesn't mean it has to have a cause. Anyway.
Yeah. So I'm going to save that. I'm going to save a comment on that for the very end here. And I'll also like to add that I've exhausted my my thorough knowledge of the second law of thermodynamics. So we're going to move on.
All right.
Fair enough, right? Okay, so now the U obviously is for the universe is expanding. Here's a simple retort to that. Edwin Hubble's observations in the 1920s show that the galaxies are moving away from each other, indicating that the universe is expanding. The expansion suggests that in the past that the universe was much smaller, hotter, denser, and consistent with this Big Bang model, thus inferring to a beginning from a point of singularity.
Yeah, I mean, like that. If you just naively,
the other one I thought too, right? So
yeah, I mean, roughly, and it's true. Like the universe is expanding. We don't know if it'll always be expanding. We also don't know how far we're allowed to kind of like legally wind the clock back. But just because like the math that we use to do that kind of just stops making sense when we get too close to a singularity. So maybe things kind of go crazy when it gets too small. Hard to say.
Sure. And the R here, I'm not taking up too much time, am I?
You're fine. Okay.
The R here, radiation from the cosmic wave background, CMB.
Yeah.
Cosmic microwave background.
100% agree. It agrees. It implies rapid expansion from a small dense state. Absolutely agree.
Yeah. And there's some appeal to some cosmologists. Obviously, you probably know these names, which again has an older date to it, which is annotated here in 1965. Arno Penzias, Robert Wilson, nearly uniform background radiation. The G is for the great galaxy seeds, large-scale structure. The distribution of galaxies and galaxy clusters from the universe forms a cosmic web of filaments and voids. Tiny fluctuations in the density of matter in early universe observed in the cosmic background acted as seeds for the formation of these large-scale structures. This matches the predictions of the Big Bang model combined with cosmic inflation.
Yeah, so maybe I'm confused, but like I agree that the Big Bang happened. The question is just, was it actually the beginning, or was it just a particularly important event, right?
Yeah, and so premise one comes up here and says that these are the suggestions of one point of singularity.
But
and
no, they don't. That's the important point. They don't imply a singularity. They imply a hot, dense state in the early universe, right?
No,
they
that's
don't necessarily
me importing. That's me importing my own into that.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So
no,
so like
that's not me reading on a screen. That's me infusing my yeah.
So the trouble is like the cosmic microwave background radiation. All that points to is that about 13.8 billion years ago, the universe was a few thousand degrees Kelvin. But that was 380,000 years after the Big Bang, right? So that doesn't say anything about it actually being a singularity. And the same can be said about large-scale structure. That formed, the structure formation was a process that began a few seconds after the Big Bang. But again, that doesn't imply singularity because the universe was already finite in size at that point. The same with the expansion. The expansion, you could propose that you can maybe wind it all the way back to zero size, but we know that our math will break down there. So this is all to say, I agree, the Big Bang, if by Big Bang, it just means the universe was once very, very small, perhaps not zero size, but very, very small, and very, very hot, and then it expanded, I agree that happened. The question is, was there actually a singularity, or was there something else before that? What was going on? We just don't know. And none of the data that we have says anything about that.
Okay, here's a question there. I'm going to deviate from the E, which is element abundances, but let me deviate.
Yeah, I'm familiar with the elemental abundances.
So would you say this? If I said what we don't know with empirically through data, that therefore, since there is an unknown knowledge, this is where data ceases and philosophy begins. If I said that, what would you think about the position?
I would say that you're too hesitant to say that this will forever remain in the realm of philosophy. Like these are empirical questions, right? Like these can, in principle, be answered scientifically.
So time has to be the hero in some.
I mean, it just shouldn't be that surprising. Like we've only been doing cosmology for 100 years, so like, should it really be? Do we expect that we should have all of the possible answers we could ever get after only 100 years, like 3 generations or 4 generations?
No, this is kind of crazy because I knew some young ladies that studied cosmetology in high school, and they weren't nearly as smart as you.
That's a different field.
Okay, listen, that's my last joke. Okay,
that's fair. That's fair.
Okay, now listen. Hawking's Penrose. I can't appeal to my own, so I'm appealing to them. And here's a statement.
The Penrose-Hawking theorems.
Yeah. Yep. Singularity theorems. Yep. These theorems suggest that under general relativity, the universe, here's a caveat, must have begun as singularity. And then there's some other names,
Borguth-Vilenkin, yeah.
Sure.
So it's interesting. So the Penrose-Hawking, there's the Hawking singularity theorem is the one that tells us about the Big Bang. Penrose is responsible for black holes. So the Hawking singularity theorem, the specific details there require a few facts. One, it requires that general relativity, which is Einstein's theory of gravity, holds in all situations at all times, which we kind of expect it not to, just because we know that quantum mechanics has to play a role, especially when things get very, very small, which is exactly where singularities are supposed to live. So we kind of expect that in some way, the Hawking singularity theorem is basically screaming at us, yeah, general relativity has to break down. Because if it is the case that if you trusted general relativity the whole way, then you'd end at a singularity, what that means is that your mathematics blows up. So instead, there must be something else that we're missing, and that something else is almost surely quantum mechanics. Similarly, and this is actually an interesting thing that I urge you to look into, the Borguth-Vilenkin theorem was recently shown to have a hole in it, which is, and it was actually written, or the paper, let me see if I can pull it up.
Well, you type fast too, don't you?
Yeah, don't get me started on that. So let me pull up the paper. It was last year. It came out, actually, it was by one of the authors was an old professor of mine. And I believe, is it this one? Is it? Oh, let me just double check. Oh no, it's not this one, but I know. Oh yeah, it was by Eason, Davies, and one other person. Let me see if I can find it. One sec.
While you're doing that, let me spit off some rhetoric for you.
Yeah, go ahead.
So when inferring an absolute beginning, when you're saying that there's a problem with singularity theories, and I say Hawkins and Penrose, I would submit that maybe, I'm going to use maybe. So these theorems suggest, how about that under general relativity, the universe must have begun as a singularity. And so with Borguth-Lincoln, I think it implies that any universe with an average expansion rate greater than, I don't know, 0, it seems like it have a past boundary. I think this is indicating a beginning, and I think that's fair. And this cosmic microwave background I think I'm safe in saying that it provides strong evidence for this hot, dense origin of the universe, which is consistent with the model. And the last thing, the thermodynamics conversation we had, I think it's also safe to say that the increase in entropy seems to suggest that there's a low entropy beginning, right? And so I wouldn't say it's on bad evidence that the theist starts from the beginning and thus infers to the beginner, and when applied to the cosmological argument, I think it would stand to reason for me, right, that there is an axiom that is an uncaused first cause, and to that axiom we have to assign some characteristics, and that's where I ended up, man.
So okay, so I found the paper. So and
dear heavens, man, did you just type it that fast?
Yeah. How'd you know? I'm just gonna pull it up just so people can look. No expectation to read it now, of course. But let me just pull it up so then you can look. So here it is. It's called "On the Past Completeness of Inflationary Spacetimes." This is exactly the case of the range of applicability of the Borguth-Lincoln theorem. So essentially, they're just like they found a hole in the argument. Like it's not actually as rock solid as people think it is. And I could go into the details, but I'm not going to. Suffice it to say, the question of general relativity always applying is just not like, if you ask any cosmologist alive today, they will be like, yeah, of course general relativity is going to break down. So the kind of appeals to general relativity, which is a purely classical theory, it doesn't have quantum mechanics built in at all. It just doesn't hold much force in like a modern scientific lens. Now, maybe if you had brought this up 100 years ago, it probably would have, because we didn't really know better, but we do now. So sure. I'm just not so convinced.
Yeah. Lastly, I'll say this before I get off. But one thing, great conversation. If I can get up on here again, if I see you, I'd like to. I think we went over Kalam and absolute beginning. I'm going to go ahead and get off now. Give me a whole lot to think about, and unfortunately, a whole lot of things to read. I probably read about as fast as you type, which is pretty fast. And the next time we talk, I'd like to talk about the teleological argument, which is the argument of fine-tuning. You've probably heard before, and the mind behind design. So those would be some cool conversations. If you can kind of bookmark me and remember me, I've sent you a follow. Dr. Blitz
Chronicles. I think I'll remember you.
Yeah, because remember we talked about the movie. But yeah, man, thanks for engaging with me. And hey, you may not like this, but buddy, you're going to be in my prayers.
Oh no! Well, you're going to be in my science now. It's
Whether
fine.
you like it or not, sir.
Thanks for being here, bud.
Hey, thanks for having me on. I enjoyed our time together.
Take care. All right, he was cool. I liked him. Friendly guy. Good convo. I need to hear your thoughts on metaphysics, epistemology, and theory of mind. I don't really think about theory of mind very much. I don't really have one. I'm like, but if you wanted me to give you a buzzword, I would say something like functionalist or something like that. All right, let's talk to Nicholas Markmeyer. Nicholas, how's it going?
Oh, you're talking to me. What's
Yeah,
up?
I'm talking to you.
Sorry, it looks like it kind of lagged for a second.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, I'm just here to talk about some stuff and just see what you think about it.
Sure, what god do you believe in?
I believe that everything's perfect.
Was that an answer to my
Um,
question?
well, I think that God's perfect. I just think that everything's perfect.
But, like, do you believe in a god?
Yeah.
Which one?
Well, I think perfect is God.
I don't know what that means. Do you believe that there was a being with a mind that created the universe?
No, I think the universe has always been happening.
Okay, then it does. I don't actually think that we have any substantial disagreements. Like, we might have semantic disagreements, but not substantial ones.
Well, yeah, I mean, we might not have
Although
any
I'd be surprised.
disagreements,
Like,
but
I don't know. I don't know how you mean. I don't know what you mean by perfect. That's very weird. Very weird thing to say. Like, given like, I don't know, like, kids with bone cancer or something.
yeah, it's hard. There's actually an argument that I've been studying for a while where we can actually mathematically show that there is the possibility that the most favorable thing has the illusion of pain, and so that trips people up a lot. But we like I've actually shown it on my channel. There's
No free clout.
mathematical. What's up?
No free clout. I'm just messing with you.
Oh, okay. I've like there's ways to mathematically show that the illusion of pain increases the value of the most favorable system. It's hard for people to believe, and I don't blame them for that. But it's right in front of my face, so I don't know
What
what to do.
mathematical axioms are you using to prove this?
Well, I'm not using any established mathematical axioms. Um, what happens is that I can show you that there's evidence suggesting that the universe is conserved and that there's only one thing.
Wait, so then
Um,
what? So when you said you had mathematical evidence, like what did you mean? Grimlock with $20. Thank you. I need a W Grimlock icon. But like, what did you mean when you said mathematical proof?
so if we're looking at systems that might be the best heaven, there's a few ways to look at them. There's one system where everything is the same value of pleasure. So like we would just look around and there's only pleasure. So this object is a 50 value pleasure, another object is a 50 value pleasure, and another object is a 50 value pleasure. This is what I call flatland. And so the idea is that if we had four 50s and we visited them each 50 times, then that would be a value of 10,000. But we can think about a staircase instead, like a different
Wait, what?
best
But
heaven.
so what? What's the math?
Well, the math is 50 times 50 times 4.
Okay, so you just mean
Like with,
multiplication. So you're just talking about you're just measuring things in utils or something like that.
well, it's kind of, well, there's more than just multiplication to it. I actually have a lot of evidence that suggests that perfect is real. And there's several different what I call proofs, but they're really good evidence. And they talk about different things. So on one hand, I can talk about the ontological argument and show that perfect is real through some ontological arguments. Or I can also
So
show
just to be clear, what do you mean when you say perfect?
the most favorable from the not missing anything span.
Yeah, most favorable to whom?
But it doesn't matter. It's just that the most favorable is in the not missing anything span because nothing's missing.
Well,
And
no, I
so
mean,
since
but
there's some,
like clearly there are going to be attitudes. So favorability typically implies an attitude, and attitudes are mental things. So there are going to be situations that are perfect to one person and not perfect to another, and so you can't fulfill perfection for both. You can't fulfill favorability for both simultaneously.
well, we could show that there are things that are objectively favorable. Like the idea,
That's an oxymoron. Like favorable means that it preferred with respect to someone's attitudes, and implicit there is the someone's. So I don't even know what it would mean for it to be objectively favorable when favorable literally is a subjective notion.
well, it could be. There's a lot to this, and so I'm trying to play pinball with the amount of information that there is. But what I would say is that pleasure is a stable thing, and it's something that we'd want to stay with. while pain is something that we want to get away from, we want to change from. And so we could develop some sort of idea that objectively favorable would be systems that we want to stay with, that we will to stay with. And so as we could build like stable systems, not build them, but we could talk about stable systems, stable squared systems, stable cube systems, becoming more and
I have
more.
no idea what you're talking about. This seems very look, so do you have are you like well read in philosophy?
No, I've been trying to. You're not going to like this, but I do mostly independent research instead of reading.
How much of this involves ChatGPT?
None of it.
Really?
Really. I've been
That's
working on
good.
this for a long time.
That's good. Yeah, I mean, like, you do independent research instead of reading, you said?
Yeah.
What does that mean? How are you doing research without reading?
I sit in front of a notebook and I take notes.
Take notes on what?
Thoughts. I mean, like
Okay, you should consider reading.
Well, they wrote those books. How do you think they wrote them?
They wrote those books based off of things that they learned elsewhere, and then they
That other
added their own
people
ideas
wrote.
to them. That's how knowledge increases. Like look, a lot of the things that you're saying seem to seem incoherent based off of the language that you're using. Now maybe there's some way to interpret it, but like you're just not using the language in the way that people can understand you. So if you want to communicate this idea efficiently, then you should just read, so then you know what people mean when they say things.
It's difficult.
Reading is difficult. That's the hard part of research. Writing down ideas is the easy part.
Well, no, what's difficult is like being able to like show you that the evidence has like valid substance immediately. Like, I don't think that I could do this immediately, but I think that sharing the ideas will develop into something where it's like, okay, this makes some sense. I'm just sharing.
I mean, look,
ideas.
so all I'm saying is that if you want people to take this seriously, and this is true of any field, by the way, the only way to get taken seriously of people in a field is to show that you actually are taking the field seriously, and that means that you have to learn the field, right?
I mean, I'm not disagreeing that reading is a good thing. I think reading is a good thing, but I thought that I could answer these questions on my own, and I do feel like they're pretty valid answers. It's just I haven't even communicated an argument that perfect's real yet. I've just been saying that I believe that perfect's real.
No. Oh, but I know, but it's not the topic of the debate, so we probably shouldn't go into it. All I'm saying is that if you want to be taken seriously by like philosophers or theologians or theologians or whatever, you have to prove to them that you've taken their field seriously. That's just like basic reciprocity that you should like expect people to want, right?
That's appropriate.
It's just more advice than anything. But look, I'm gonna let you go because this isn't the topic of the debate. But thanks for being here and good luck. Okay.
Yeah.
Take care. All right, y'all. Remember, if you're watching on TikTok, if you're watching on YouTube, wherever you might be, or if you're watching in the future, remember to like the live and consider subscribing. All of these lovely things that you can do to help support me if you like what you see. If you don't like what you see, then don't do it. But please do it, because you should like what you see, because I'm a nice guy. I'm just a little guy. All right, we have 999 priests. How's it going?
Going good. How are you, boss?
I'm doing all right. What god do you believe in?
See, I'm also an atheist myself, but I was wondering how you, as an atheist, ground your metaphysics, your epistemology, and your theory of mind. I was the guy who asked that question.
Okay, so I'll answer, but I'm gonna kick you off. I don't really have a unifying foundation for any of those. I'm like a pluralist with respect to a lot of things, a deflationist with respect to a lot of things. I'm a nominalist with respect to a lot of things. Like I don't have some like uniform grounding. I don't even know if groundings are things that are needed. Like I'm sometimes like a coherentist. Like Chronic, how's it going? Oh, he left. Oh, we have a guest on YouTube. Oh no, they left. The guest on YouTube left. Bummer. Are you a materialist? I would say I'm like a physicalist of some kind. And I do not believe in free will, no. Do you have thoughts on ethical emotivism. All I know is that it's not taken super seriously in the philosophical literature, but I also know that Alex O'Connor has that position, and he's not a slouch, so maybe I should take it seriously. It's fine, Chronic. Ding 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 ding. All right, it looks like Ronin Ego is not showing up. If you don't believe in a god, why don't you believe in free will? Because I'm a physicalist. Why would I believe in free will if I'm a physicalist? By hand cryptography to do? That seems miserable. How do you enjoy life? I don't have a choice other than to enjoy life. What do you mean? What do you think about the hard problem of consciousness? It's hard and nobody has a solution. What time does the Sunday group panel start? We might be on hiatus for like a month or so, or it depends. I won't be there for the next 2 weeks. Because I will be in another country. But I think they usually start at 9 a.m. Eastern time. Sensei, how's it going?
Hi, Dr. Blitz. How are you?
I'm doing all right. You want to talk about God?
Okay. Yes. Before I lay down my arguments as to why God exists, can I speak for like 30 seconds for my
Sure.
opening?
Sure.
Okay. So, I am appealing to the audience. Where do we get the audacity to say that the universe had a beginning? Jim Peebles, who won the early Big Bang cosmology for Nobel Prize in 2019, says that we don't have a good scientific theory about the beginning of the universe. You cannot give a beginning to space, time, and matter and energy, because giving beginning to space time implies time also, and energy and matter cannot be created nor can be destroyed, and it's property of the universe. So it's reasonable to say that the universe is already there.
Sort of. I mean, you can have a first moment. That's a reasonable thing to say. But to say that it's a beginning is a different story. Right.
That's all I want to say. Thank you. I just want to share that to the audience. Thank you.
Oh, okay. Thanks for being here. I've been had. He just wanted to come up and say a thing and then leave. I don't think he's a theist. All right, let's talk to Anne. Is this the real Anna Hathaway? Christopher, my cat's name is Evelyn. She's very cute. Anne, how's it going?
Hello?
Anne, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Great. What god do you believe in? That's a stupid question. I'm sorry. Your profile picture has a cross. What's your best argument for the existence of a god?
I just want to say that I don't really believe in the Christian God.
Why do you have a cross in both your name and your profile picture then?
Because I agree with most of the things that Christians say, but not all.
So, do you believe that Jesus rose from the dead?
No. I mean, I believe that most of the Bible is like interpretation.
So why'd you want to come up?
Because I do believe in a God. I'm just
Okay,
like,
so then what's... Okay.
my God doesn't need to be like, you know.
Your mic's, by the way, a little bit quiet. If you could talk a little bit louder or a little bit closer to your mic, that'd be good.
Okay, I'm gonna try. So first of all, I just want to say that like most of the things that exist on Earth has a creator.
I don't know if that's true. Like, does the ground have a creator?
I mean, I said most, like for example.
But the ground does
anything
most
that
of it,
you're-
right?
Not most of it. What do you mean by that?
I mean, most of the Earth is made of like rocks and dirt and stuff.
Yeah, so that's why I said most. I think that's.
But rocks
the
and
God is
dirt
the
aren't made
creator.
of don't have a creator, right?
I think they do.
Well, okay, but that's the question that we're trying to solve, right?
Yeah.
So how do you know that most things have a creator?
Okay, actually, I'm just gonna like say a different argument so you can get on my page. So
Okay.
like when most of the things you get the information of most things, you get them, for example, like from the internet, from your friends, or like you hear them from people. And like that's the same with the like proof of anything else, because you don't really, for example, if there's like wars, then most likely you're not gonna go to the war and just like be there. You just hear from other people that it's happening. So it's like
Yeah.
the same with the proof of, for example, God. Like, for example, I myself saw like a lot of like ghosts, like unexplainable things that like, and most of my family members also did that. And like there's like tons of people, like there's a lot of people that witnessed something paranormal, like ghost activities or something that's you know, associated with God.
How do you know it's not just your brain doing something funny?
Because it's not just me, it's a lot of people. It's like
Well, yeah, a lot of people.
a lot.
Everybody has, like, everybody's brains are basically the same. How do you know it's not just the brains being funny?
Because you could just say that your brain is being funny, like to anything. Like you could give that argument to like anything. You could just say that I'm made up, and
Well,
yeah,
but we
like,
do know that hallucinations are a thing, like especially like these kinds of hallucinations, and we know actually we know exactly what part of the brain they happen on. These kinds of like spiritual or religious hallucinations, they happen in some part over here, I think, like on the left side, if I remember correctly.
okay, so technically anything could be hallucination.
Well, yeah, but generally, we generally trust if like a whole bunch of people see something, generally we believe that thing happened. So
Yes, and like there's a lot of witnesses, for example, group witnesses, when a large amount of group people, for example, like 17,000 people like saw something at once, and it's not just one person, it's like a group
which thing was this?
Do I like have to say it? Like I can like search it up real quick, but there's like a lot of shit that has been happening like this.
I mean, because like these are like Catholic miracles. By the way, are you Polish?
Polish? Why
Yeah.
are you asking me that?
I'm just curious. Just because I live in Europe and I try my best to guess where people are from based off of the way that they speak English, but I'm getting Polish from you, but I'm not sure.
I mean, I live in Poland, so yeah.
Okay, I'll take
I'm
it.
not Polish, but I live in Poland.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. I live in the Czech Republic, so you know, neighbors.
Okay.
So, yeah, I mean, I'm familiar with most of the. I'm familiar with like a lot of these kind of miracles that people claim, and usually they have a pretty good explanation for them. So, like,
Yeah.
why would I take them seriously?
What do you mean take them seriously?
Well, like, because there was
this
this famous one in Spain, I want to say, like 100 years ago or something, where like a whole bunch of people saw the sun do something weird, but like, if you go look it up, there are explanations as to why that happened.
Yeah,
like
but
natural
it's not only the
explanations.
thing. Like I'm talking about like hallucinations, for example. Like they saw like Jesus in front of them. Like it's just an example, but you know what I mean. It's not always like.
Well, look, if there was
hallucination.
a time when like a whole bunch of like 17,000 people saw like a resurrected Jesus in front of them, yeah, it was the Fatima thing. And there was no alternative explanation. Like, yeah, maybe I would be a believer.
Well, like this definitely happened. Like
But
I've
like
heard
you
from.
saying it happened is like I would need to know like what happened, right?
Can you like search it up? Just.
Yeah, what should
Or
I
I
search
can
for?
search it up.
Sure. What should I search for?
No, just search like. mm, I don't know, a large amount of people seeing.
17,000?
I'm not sure if it was 17,000. I would just say that like as an example. I didn't like mean it actually happened. I just know that because I don't know exactly what it was called. Like,
Is it the
I have
Our
no
Lady of
idea.
Fatima thing?
Maybe.
So
But, like English isn't my first language, so I don't know what it's called in English.
So the miracle of the sun or something like that. This was in Portugal. I'm sorry. Does that sound familiar?
I don't know.
Okay.
Maybe.
It's hard. Yeah, it's hard to find if you can't give me any information, like for the ones that you're referring to. Yeah, I'm not able to. It's like it's really hard to find anything specific without any actual details.
All right, then you can like give an argument on why you think that God doesn't exist, and I can try to debunk it.
Yeah, so I would say that human experience is such that the mind, the human mind, is dependent entirely on the brain. This is evidenced both by, or it's dependent on some brain. Maybe if you consider like artificial intelligence to be a mind, then it would be dependent on a computer brain. But the point is it seems like minds very much depend on some physical thing. They arise out of a physical object. And we have evidence for this in the form of, like, if you poke someone in the brain, their behavior will change, right? Their mind will change when you do something to their brain. And so this leads me to conclude, with at least very, very good, at least very, very good justification, that there are no minds that are not attached to like physical brains. And if there are no minds that aren't attached to physical brains, then how could God exist? God would have to be a mind not attached to a physical brain.
Not really. Like, God doesn't have a physical body.
No, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
because
but
God doesn't have a physical body.
He's not like humans. What
My
you're
point
referring
is
right now is like.
My point is
Yes, and
that
that's the
it seems
majority
like
of
I have
humans.
very good reason to think that every mind is attached to a physical body. Not just some minds, but every mind.
Everything that's living.
Just
Or, like, if you
everything that
consider-
has a mind it seems like I have good reason to think that everything that has a mind is attached to a physical body.
Yes, but God is something higher. It's not
But
what you would
God
consider.
has a mind, right?
I wouldn't think so. Like, he just.
Oh. But then what do you mean by God, if not something with a mind?
You cannot like describe him as something like physical.
I'm not saying physical when I say mind.
He's just a form of energy.
He's just a what?
Form of energy.
But energy doesn't have the ability to do actions. Energy is not a substance. It's not a thing. It's a property.
Not really. Like, he's just a form of energy.
But energy is a physical thing.
But you cannot see it.
Well, that's because it's not like an object. It's a property.
Or you could describe something similar to the God.
I don't follow.
What? Can you repeat?
I didn't understand what you just said.
I said that like you can probably describe something similar to God. Like,
you
it's
want me-
matter, but you cannot see it. It's not like connected to a physical brain.
Oh, so wait, you think it's like matter, but not like our matter?
You could say that.
But then it just sounds like it's a physical thing.
It's not exactly a physical thing. Like, you cannot experience, you cannot see it.
Why should I believe any of this? Like, this seems like if there's nothing that you can do to experience it, if there's nothing that's like physical about it that you can interact with, what reason do we have for thinking that it's real?
Because like, if the God's mind was really connected to a brain or like something physical, then you would be able to see it. So it would be like a physical being that you could just see, and God is something upper. Like, it's like a higher power. Like, you cannot.
Well, that's my
see
point.
It's
It seems
just
like
above.
all the minds have bodies. So it would seem like if God exists, then God has to have a body.
Yes, the living ones.
No, I just mean all of them.
God is something upper. You should not consider him as like something that's the same as what you know.
But we do, because we consider him as having a mind.
No, why would you consider him having a mind?
Oh, well, if it doesn't have a mind, then it's not a... It doesn't have a will, it doesn't have a plan, it doesn't have desires or thoughts or capability of love.
Yes,
Doesn't...
that's what I think. I mean,
But then
that's
in what sense
something
is it a
similar to
god?
what I think.
In what sense is it a god?
To judge people.
But you need a mind in order to do judgment.
No, why would you need a mind to judge? Like,
How can
it's
you
just a
judge
form of energy.
how can you judge something without a mind?
You do not need to have a mind to judge something. Like, it's
Have
just
you ever
your
been
brain
judged
that's
by
responsible for it.
a tree?
No, I have not, but I have been judged by God, and you are probably judged by too.
But like trees don't have minds, so why can't trees judge us?
Because they don't have like the energy they need to judge us. Like, it's something
What?
upper I cannot explain.
But I just don't know what you mean by judgment then. If you don't think that judgment requires a mind, I don't know what judgment is.
Okay, so I'm just gonna say something a little different.
Sure.
You know, the difference between animals and humans is that animals have like this gut feeling that they're doing something wrong, right? That's how
Animals...
basically.
Wait, animals have that?
No, only humans have that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and for example, like no matter like what age are you living in, or like where are you born in, like if you're born in some fucking African tribe or anything like that, like it doesn't matter, like you have that gut feeling that tells you, like for example, even if like killing someone is considered normal in wherever you live, then like killing your own family would be considered something bad, like for your own self, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
That's like how you define sin. Like that's something that you know you're doing bad, and no matter what, I don't know, age or anything it is, then you can like tell that you're doing something bad.
But animals can have that too.
Not really, like animals don't really can tell that they've done something bad, most of them.
Sure.
Only like
Well, I
maybe
mean, like sure they can. Plenty of dogs can. Dogs will like look ashamed when they do something bad.
yeah, but like they cannot really tell the difference between good and bad. They're not, their brain is not as complex as ours. So
It's not
like,
as complex, but they can definitely know when they do a thing that their owner doesn't like.
it's just dogs, and like for example smaller animals, like I don't know, some ants or something like that,
Yeah, I
would
mean,
not be able to tell.
the bigger and more social the creature, the more likely it is to have some sense of, you know, right and wrong or justice or fairness, things like that. Sure.
Yeah, you said some.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but that means that it's not unique to humans.
But humans have it to the full extent.
I mean,
that
sure,
you need
maybe.
to be judged.
I might agree with you, but
Yeah.
like but if it's not unique to humans, then does that mean that dogs can sin?
No, they cannot, because they don't feel it to the extent they need to be feeling it to be judged.
What if it's somebody who's severely mentally disabled?
Right, and that's where I like explain it in this way. For example, if you're like living a good life, like on Earth, for example, like you believe in God and everything's great for you, then yes, you're gonna go to heaven. But for
I
example,
think the phrase is intellectual disability, by the way. That's my bad.
yeah, okay. And for example, like if you're having a bad life on Earth, like for example, I don't know, you die early because whatever reason, and you were like a Christian, you're living like a relatively good life, and you're gonna go to heaven too. Like it doesn't matter if you believe in God or not. Like if you're, for example, mentally disabled, then if you've done nothing bad in your life, then you're gonna go to heaven too.
Can animals
Because you
go to heaven?
cannot commit sin. But for example, like your life was worse on Earth than it's gonna be in heaven.
Well, but my
Like,
point is like I could imagine that somebody has such severe disability that they end up with the equivalent intelligence of like a dog or a chimpanzee or something like this.
yes,
So
that's why
if that person can
not
go to
just the
heaven,
same.
can dogs go to heaven?
No, they cannot go to heaven because they're
Why
animals.
not?
They do not have a soul. they do not have a soul. They're not able to judge like what's good or bad to the extent they need to.
But severely intellectually disabled people also can't do that.
Yes, that's right. But the severely disabled intellectual people are living a bad life on Earth. So like they're suffering. They're just overall in a bad
Not
state.
always. Sometimes they're super happy.
But overall, it's a worse life. Like you would not want to have a mental disability, most likely.
I mean, yeah. Knowing what I know, probably not. But you know, if I was born that way, maybe I would be the happiest, the happiest person in the world.
Okay, but most of the disabilities really ain't that sunshine and rainbows. So you would still like be judged, like since you were living a bad life on Earth, you're gonna live a better life in heaven. And if you're living like you're sinning, you're committing murders, then you're gonna go to hell.
But how do you know any of this if not from the Bible?
What do you mean? Like I do not need to base all of this on Bible.
Well, I mean, the notion of like then where'd the notion of hell come from?
I mean, I don't really think that it's like strictly heaven and hell. I just think it's more like, you know, like I don't know. I cannot explain it in like physical terms because I cannot. It's just like a metaphor. Like obviously, in hell you're gonna burn, but you're maybe not actually gonna be burning. You're just gonna be like replenishing for the sins that you did when you lived, or in heaven you're just gonna be granted like a better place. It's not a physical thing, but it's just like a term for something that humans go to when they've done bad things or good things.
I'm just not sure why I would think that such a place exists.
Because why otherwise you would have this feeling, for example?
I think that that's genetic.
Yeah, well, you know, mostly evolution is like they tend to like the things that are useless are gonna disappear from you in like 100 ages or something. I don't know. Well, like, you know, it's something that's useless if there weren't need to be judged.
No, it's useful for preserving a good society, right? Like if
Yeah,
people
good
feel
society
bad
and being
about
judged.
doing crimes, then that means that the society will be self-preserving, right?
Not really. Like you're not like you can be able to like feel it, but it's still like it can also be explained like that. And
I mean, it
yeah,
is
I'm going
explained by that by evolutionary psychologists, even though evolutionary psychology is like made up. Like there are serious scientists who explain it this way.
What do you mean by that?
They explain the evolution of things like altruism and fairness and like aversion to violence using evolutionary biology.
Okay, and like what's your point?
My point is that it doesn't seem like you need it doesn't seem like you have to posit the existence of a hell in order to explain why we have these feelings.
Yeah, but like as I said, like I don't mean like hell is actually that you're burning in a pit. You're
No, I
just
know.
replenishing your sins.
I know it's a metaphor. I'm using the same metaphor.
Yeah, just replenishing your sins for being a bad person on earth, like bad considered in where you live. Like if you live in some fucking, I don't know, African tribe where everyone is stupid and they just kill each other, but like the African people also have like a sense of what's good and bad. And for example,
Let's not do that. Yeah, let's not do that. So, the unfortunate thing. One sec. Shut up for a second. I have to address. Sorry. Quantum, shut up for a second. I have to address something. So the unfortunate thing is that the people in Central Europe and like people in Europe in general are significantly less sensitive to the kind of racism that people who grew up in America are, just because people who grew up in Europe just don't have that exposure to the kind of racism that people from America are trained to be like, oh yeah, that's bad.
That's
So,
actually
like,
false.
I mean, I live in Europe. I see it all the time.
Well,
The kind of
or
anti-blackness that we are so averse to in the United States is just it's not nearly as frowned upon in Europe.
okay,
Unfortunately,
I agree with that.
and so that's what happened. This certainly isn't an excuse, but that's why I imagine that's why that happened. I don't think that like she was a member of the KKK or something. But I'm still not going to tolerate. Quantum, what do you got for me?
Well, what do you want to talk about?
What god do you believe in?
Well, I believe in the center of the universe.
That wasn't an answer to my question.
Okay, well,
Do you believe in a god?
let it be of course,
Okay, which one is it?
the center of the universe. Okay,
So, when I say God, I mean
okay. What god do you believe in?
I don't. When I say God, I mean a being that is responsible for either creating or sustaining the universe.
So the center of the universe is what it pretty much just fucking said.
A being. Let me be more specific. A being with a mind.
Yeah, sure.
Do you think the center of the universe has a mind? Also, there is no
Yes,
center of the universe.
course. Okay, well, there is a center of the universe.
Prove it.
Do your fucking math.
Prove that there's a center. Prove it.
Prove it. Are you
Yep.
serious?
Yep, do it.
All right. What's 1 + 1?
2.
Come on, baby. You could do it. What's 1 + 1?
I just answered it. It's 2. Dumbass. Like what?
Good girl. So you believe that there is a center of the universe?
No, I don't.
Yes. If you do math, if you could do any kind of fucking mathematics, then you believe that there is a center of the universe. There's a totality of what we spiral into, right?
Prove it.
Do you believe in gravity? You're
Prove
one
it.
of those motherfuckers that doesn't believe in gravity.
Prove that
huh?
there's a center of the universe, dumbass.
Do you believe in gravity?
Yeah, no shit. I didn't know I was talking to a troglodyte.
Okay,
Prove that there's a center of the
okay.
universe, or get the fuck
Wait,
off my
hold
live.
on. So you believe in gravity, but you don't believe in mathematics?
Oh, you believe in mathematics, but you
Girl,
don't believe in
girl,
cell
come
phones?
on,
Like,
come
what are you
on,
talking about?
Come on. All right.
Are you
All right.
trolling? Are you? Because it just sounds like you're trolling.
All right. Let's be serious.
Yeah, let's be
Do you
serious.
believe? All right. Do you believe in a god?
No,
Why?
nobody's given me a good reason to.
What do you
Do
believe
you
in?
believe in a god
Yes.
with a mind?
No.
Okay, then what kind of? Then
Well,
in what sense is it a god?
It depends on what you explain a mind is.
A thing with mental states.
A thing that has mathematics.
A thing that has mental states.
Mathematics.
Mental states.
Mathematics.
Why are you trying to change my definition? What are you doing?
Whoa. That's literally what your definition is. If you're
Mental states are not mathematics and mental states are not the same thing.
Okay. Define a mental state.
Qualia would be one example. A mental state is any of a collection of possible states. Qualia would be one example.
And what do we call that? Mathematics.
Qualia is not mathematics. Are you high?
Yeah. No. What?
Okay, so you're just stupid?
Maybe a little bit. All right. So you believe in a god, right?
No.
Mm. I'm just trying to like understand your brain.
I don't
So-
think you really are. I think
Okay.
you're just trying to troll.
No, define what a god is.
I already did. A being with a
do you
mind that
got?
is responsible for creating or sustaining the universe.
So mathematics.
Nope.
Bro, I'm gonna beat the shit out of you.
It turns out when they can't defend themselves intellectually, they rely on physical strength, which I'm sure that you're lacking just as well.
Oh my god. Don't start. Don't start being a pussy, bro. Don't start being a fucking pussy. Shut the fuck up. All
Bro,
right.
you're just getting bodied here.
What do you mean?
You just,
All right.
just like shut up and make an argument, or get out of here. Okay.
Define what a god is.
I've done it for you already twice.
No, you haven't.
I literally gave you the same definition twice. I'll give it
No,
a third
you
time, but if you
haven't.
ask a fourth time, I'll kick you. Sound good? Great.
No,
So a
no.
god is a being with a mind that is either the cause or the sustainer of the universe.
You want to define that as mathematics, though?
No. What the fuck is wrong with you?
Well, because that's literally what it means. It's like
No, not everything is mathematics.
yes, because it's the center. It's like the center of like what we understand as what we like. Fucking.
It's literally not.
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
All right.
What a waste of time. Oh, hey, we have a guest from YouTube. Hey, how's it going, Raging? You're on. Raging, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Raging. I can hear you. I know you can hear me.
Hello. Hello.
Hey, how's it going? You gonna say something?
Sorry, I'm not showing my face.
I can see your face. It's fine.
Okay.
You don't have to. So, do you believe in God?
Yes, I do actually. I'm a
Okay.
Christian, but not in the traditional sense that you would take it.
Okay, you're gonna have to speak a little bit more into
I
your mic
believe
because
that-
it's going to be kind of quiet.
Sorry. I do believe that a God does exist, but not exactly the Christian God.
But you said you're Christian.
Yes, I believe
If-
in the Christian God because Christianity just explains the God that I believe in the most.
Okay.
Only because of that. So here's my belief. The reason I believe a God exists, not a Christian God. If so, the Christian says that all gods, their God loves them, but I do not think that the God that actually exists does not love us. He created us just for the fun, I guess.
So let me
The
ask you
thing
this:
is-
why should I believe in the God that you believe in?
I do not want you to believe exactly as I do, but
But
here's
you
the
understand
reason
that
a
that was
God
the
should-
background for the that was the topic of discussion, right?
So you want to believe in a Christian God, or just
I'm
just want-
asking you what your best argument is that could convince me that you are correct.
Okay, so if we look at everything, like the nebula and everything, just beauty of the nature and everything, you cannot argue that why should a God exist? But the question really is, why shouldn't a God exist? I need you to prove that.
So your
Why
argument
shouldn't a
is
God
prove me wrong. Is that your argument? Because there are a lot of ugly things
No.
too.
I want you to prove that a God does not exist.
But that's not the topic of the discussion.
Yes, you're an atheist.
Yeah.
You have a reason to not believe it. I want to know that reason, okay?
Okay. The reason is, one of the reasons anyway, among many, is that it seems like when I look around, every single mind that I see is attached to a body and is arising from a brain. And this seems to be the case from every single piece of evidence I've ever seen. Whether it's because somebody gets shot in the head and they instantly stop having a mind, or whether it's because you poke at somebody's head during a surgery and they stop being able to talk. Whatever it might be, it seems like every single mind is attached to a brain. And so if you're suggesting that there exists a mind, God, that is not attached to a brain, I'm just going to be skeptical.
Okay, so you just want to give God a material organ that he shouldn't even have because he does not exist in the same plane that we do.
Then I don't have any reason to think it exists.
Very well. But I do want to tell you that a God does exist.
Why?
Just because it doesn't have a brain, just because it doesn't have that material thing that we do here, doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
Well, we don't
Yeah,
have we have strong evidence that it doesn't exist if it doesn't have a material brain.
Okay, then you're just saying that if it isn't, oh wait, no, brains. If my English is too bad for this.
Honestly, you're doing better.
First.
So what's your first language?
My first language is actually Mizo, very rare, only 1 million of us.
What's the language? From where?
From India, Northeast, Mizo.
Oh, okay.
There's only 1 million of us.
Well, let me tell you this. Your English is better than my Mizo.
Thank you.
But yeah, so, I mean, look, like, the argument that I've given is not, like, proof. But it should be pretty convincing. Like, have you ever encountered a mind that doesn't have a brain?
No.
So then why would you think such a thing is possible?
I think it is possible because everything just points to it being possible. Like,
but, like, could you give me an example of such a thing besides God?
Okay. What I'm really trying to say is that the universe cannot start without something that started it. I know something that provided it energy. Energy that. Oh wait, one question. You're a physicist, right?
Yeah.
So I've seen on YouTube that like some energies that are so strong that they turn into matter. Is it really true that energy can turn into matter before I make my argument?
Kind of, sort of, yeah.
Oh, so yes. So the God that I think is just some kind of extremely some conscious energy. In fact, yes, energy, just energy, not some kind of body. In fact, every single of one of your memory, in fact, is just some kind of sorry for my bad science and stuff, but for what my basic knowledge says, our memory is just some electric signals that move around, and when they mixed up, we actually forget that because the same kind of electric signals override the memory before that and everything like that. So, in fact, the mind is nothing but energy that is moving in a specific pattern for what I know, and so because of that, God is basically just some massive form of energy for me.
Yeah, so the reason you gave for God's existence is that, well, the universe needs to be prepared for or it needs to be, built by something, it needs to be made by something. But how do you know the universe had a beginning? What if it's always existed?
Always cannot be used.
Why not?
Even you're a physicist, you know that everything must have an end. Even that
Why?
extremely durable stuff that I don't know the ball's name anymore, but yes, even that can break. The hardest thing can break. So if it has a beginning, it needs no wait no. If it has an end, it needs a beginning.
I don't think that the universe has an end.
Well, in the sense that this reality never ends, yes, but existence as we know it will eventually end. Not the
In what
universe.
sense?
No.
I don't think so.
In what sense? Let's say, what is the name of the energy that is constantly pushing matters away from each other?
Dark energy.
Yes. Let's say that energy eventually wins over gravity, okay? Then every matter will never be able, soon enough, every matter will never be able to ever come together again. Even atoms will be soon broken up into even simpler things because for some reason I also believe that atoms are made of even smaller things, and those even smaller things are made of even smaller things with such precision that cannot be, let's just say, achieved that randomly. It cannot just appear randomly. So
Well, but look,
in
I mean,
that sense,
the
the
stuff was,
universe will end.
but it'll still exist, right? It's not like the matter will just disappear.
Yes, it will not. In
So
fact,
so the universe will never end.
our existence will end. Yes.
Well, I mean,
But
my
the
existence
universe
will
as a
end in
whole
50
will never.
years, right?
Who knows? You'll live longer than that.
Maybe. I mean, that'll make me pretty old. I'm 31.
81 isn't that old.
It's pushing it. I'm an American. Americans don't live very long.
Yeah. So whatever. I'm 16, by the way.
You can't say that. Nope. You have to be 8. Sorry, buddy. You have to be 18 plus. I could never have noticed that he was 16, actually. Yeah, I'm actually turning 32 soon. I would have never guessed that he was... Yeah, I thought he was like in his 20s or 30s. He just... Look, and by the way, allowed to say this because my wife is Cambodian. It's really hard to tell how old an Asian person is because Asian people just don't age, right? Like, my wife will look the same now as she does in 30 years. Beautiful and amazing. Like, and I'll be old and wrinkly because I'm, you know, white guy. So all right, let's bring up another guest. Actually, yeah, until they hit that magic age where they all of a sudden are 110. That's true. I've met her grandma, lovely human being, love her. But she did hit that magic age. That is absolutely true. Y'all, it's not that late, but we're low on guests, we're low on views, and I'm kind of sleepy, and I have to get on a flight tomorrow morning. So I think I'm going to end the live here. I might hop into Ian's live and just kind of like hang out there, but I'm just not feeling it tonight. So for those of you who are watching, this might be the last live for a while. I'm going to be on holiday for 2 weeks, and then after that, I'm going to be busy packing. So I don't know how frequently, like there will almost certainly be no lives in the next 2 weeks. After that, in the second half of May, lives, there probably will be lives, but they will be more intermittent. So I'll still be putting out videos, but I just won't have time for a few hours a night of lives. So I'll miss you guys too, but you know, I'll be back. Don't forget about me, okay? Take care, everybody. And to everybody watching on YouTube,